Mental Health Mondays ignite the spark. Hope guides each step, even in the dark. New week, new dreams to see. Hope's the key to what's meant to be.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mental Health Mondays with Hope. I am Hope. Thanks for joining us. And this is actually our last Mental Health Mondays of 2025. I'd like to thank everyone who has tuned in, who has subscribed to the Empowerment Network. If you have not done it yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And it is free. There's no charge, but it gets you into our network and you can check out all of the programming that we have. And thank you, of course, to my guests that have been here and to our wonderful producer, engineer, grand poopah, as I like to say, Kendall Stevenson, for everything, the PA Empowerment Network. We're very young and we've grown so much just over the last few months, and for him to allow me to do this program on the network. So thank you, Kendall. And since we're thanking guests, I'm going to go ahead shortly and bring on our guest, Jeanette Michaels, who is now an RN, and we're going to stick with our theme. Last week, we talked about setting goals, and today we're going to talk about overcoming failures. So let's welcome Jeanette Michaels to the show. Come on in, Jeanette. Well, you're impatient, ringing that doorbell twice.
So always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me again. This is
is this the third? No, third,
this is
fourth?
The third. Yeah, this is the
Great.
third. This is the third visit I've been here. So my positive affirmation is.
See, she already knows what we're doing.
Yeah, I do. I know the drill, right? So, first of all, before I give my positive affirmation, I am in North Carolina, where it is 68 degrees and sunny today. We had one little rain shower. However, I am also here in a big house with 4 little humans that range from 5 to 13. So there's no telling when they might come barging in. So
that's fair. That's fine.
Just bear with me on that one. If that happens.
No worries.
So,
no worries.
My positive affirmation: I am successful because of the failures I have experienced throughout life and throughout my goal setting process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. It certainly rings true. Now, go ahead, for the people that are not familiar with you, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So, as my name on the screen says, I am Jeanette Michaels. I last week graduated from an associate's degree with an associate's degree in nursing. I have been trying since I was. Thank you. I have been trying since I was 18 years old to get through that whole process. Since we're talking about goals and we're talking about failures, I'll just give you a little bit of how that happened. When you come out of, everybody when you're growing up asks you, well, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? So, well, I'm going to be a nurse. That's what I told everybody from the time I was 5 years old all the way till I got out of high school. Started in my bachelor's program at a small little college, private Catholic school in Sioux City, Iowa. I like to jokingly say I found beer and babies. That year I found beer and failed out. And then my mom kicked me out of the house saying, look, you got to get a job or you got to get out. So I did both.
Okay.
Started working as a nanny in North Jersey for a wonderful family who paid for a year at community college.
Wow, that's great.
I found a husband that wasn't necessarily so supportive, and quit and abruptly left that family. So failure number 2. I had my 2 kids. I raised my 2 kids. After moving all over the country for different reasons, I was accepted to Northampton County Community College to their nursing program, gave up my seat because the spouse wanted to build a home in Kutztown. So we did that. Marriage failed. And a couple years later, I got together with my current spouse and tried again at Cedar Crest College. Was not in a good place mentally. Very mentally unstable. A lot of things going on. A lot of situational stress going on. Finally, I enrolled some things. I got my life together. I had my weight loss surgery. Became much more self-confident. Started seeing some changes in my own behaviors and acknowledging that the current behaviors I was exercising were not working, and started working in a case management program. I'll call it a case management role because it really was a case management role. My boss, my manager in that role, encouraged me to take advantage of a program at the hospital where I work that paid for part of my schooling. So I made it through the last 2.5, 3 years and graduated this semester. So on to the NCLEX. So, and I've accepted a job here in North Carolina. So
that's great. We're losing you here in Pennsylvania, but North Carolina should be happy to have you.
So, but I will, well, and my kids are here, my grandkids are here, obviously. So that it made total sense. So.
And so how have I know we're going to be talking full on about this. How have your failures then led to successes? I mean, obviously you didn't give up, which is really important.
Right. So, and that is the key right there. You have to be able to endure the setbacks. Failure is not a negative. Failure should never be seen as a negative, right? Because we're always growing.
It's a lesson.
Yeah, it is. And we always talk about, as raising kids right now, and how I'm, with my grandkids, supporting, helping with that role as a grandparent, as we teach our kids consequences to our actions, right? And for each consequence, we learn that things may or may not work out. You either have good positive consequences or you have negative consequences.
Right.
But as I just said to my 13-year-old and my 10-year-old this afternoon, grandchildren, take this as a teachable moment. So if you look at your failures and a setback as a teachable moment and grow from that, it leads you to your future successes, because you're going to. So in the nursing world, we have our nursing process, right? So our SMART goals that you talked about last week, you kind of did an assessment right there, right? Who is my tribe? What is my vibe? Who is my tribe? There, you're assessing your current situation, right? Then we move on to, then that's kind of our evaluation of what's going on, right? Then we move on to analyzing that. So we're analyzing what is going to happen if we do X, Y, Z, or ABC. And you weigh your pros and cons to ABC or X, Y, Z. Then you move on to plan. How do I get there? There's your SMART goal.
Right.
Right. So, and then you implement that plan. So with implementation, you have to evaluate continually. You can't just stop. You have to continually evaluate your progress. And not only evaluate your progress, but celebrate the progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, we talked about with our SMART plan. And, I mentioned to you that I actually created a guide using all of my research to do last week's episode. It is called the Follow Through Guide. And I started a Facebook page called the Follow Through Guide. So I would love for people to join that, and we'll all do this together. But it's true. It's celebrating and not, I think sometimes, we talked about last week, New Year's resolutions and why they fail, and everybody's crowding the gyms in January, but then by February, it's thinned out quite a bit. and I think it's, it's because people have the idea, they have the goal. I want to lose weight, or I want to get more fit, or whatever their goal is, but they don't come up with the plan. And, going gung ho in the first month is not necessarily something that you can sustain for 12 months. So
let's talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up,
Okay.
because, you and I have been through weight loss surgery. We've been very open about that, right? And we always talk about it's a tool.
Yes.
Your SMART goal is the same thing. It's nothing more than a tool to guide you.
Right.
So I'm glad
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up. So
Yeah,
that was one of the things that I wrote down in preparing for tonight too.
Okay. Well, I mean, you run with the ball here. Where would you like to start? Because I know how thorough you are, and I always enjoy listening to you, and I learn so much.
I usually only spend about 10 minutes in my day preparing for these nights. So, however, I just go by wherever the spirit leads us, really. So
Absolutely.
I really liked your last week. What is your vibe?
Yes.
Right? And who is your tribe? I really like that, because I don't think a lot of people really ever think about that, or they don't analyze.
Absolutely.
That's where they're actually at with that.
Right. And if you didn't watch last week, what I said was your vibe attracts your tribe. Yeah. So what is your vibe? Really analyze yourself. And if you're not giving the vibe that you really want to give, then what's the vibe that you want to give? And look at your tribe and who exhibits the characteristics that would support who you are, like what your vibe is. Like you had said, with your first spouse, that he was not supportive. And, in society, especially as women, we're taught that we should get married and yada, yada, yada. And everything that we want gets put on the back burner. But, in order to reach goals, sometimes, he was part of your tribe and his vibe didn't meet yours. And I'm not saying anything negative about him. But sometimes you have to make those changes, and that can be scary, in order to continue on with what's best for you.
Yep. And I want to clarify that, because, and I want to expand on what you said about, as women, what we are taught. When you grow up in the abusive situations that I grew up in, you've talked about, all you ever want is to be loved. So you choose that environment, because in that moment you feel loved. You're vulnerable, right? You're looking at that. Interestingly enough, that last year, my son graduated with his master's in nursing.
That's awesome. That's
actually
great.
almost exactly a year ago. My graduation was like a year later than his master's graduation. So I had seen his father, and his father made the comment, he's got your drive for education.
Wow.
And I never even realized that I do have that drive, because I never learned how to set those SMART goals growing up in that abusive household.
Okay.
So, and I never understood how to measure what I learned from the setbacks in those goals. So, So a lot of what you talked about last week rang home with me.
Okay.
And then, and I had seen something on another friend that we kind of know through our Facebook forums, said, and I probably have to pull it up because I don't think I can quote it exactly. So if you give me a hot second here.
Okay.
What is meant for you doesn't pass you. It circles you again and again until you're ready, right? So even though as I grew after my divorce into my new marriage through obtaining my bachelor's degree in management, through gaining 5 grandkids.
Right.
You know, each time I've learned something from the process.
Right.
So looking back on it now, and as I have learned through nursing school, that whole nursing process that I've already talked about, I never really understood.
Mm. I feel like Jeanette froze.
She did.
Yeah, I feel like Jeanette is frozen here. If you're watching, if you can tell me, but she's gorgeous frozen. So we'll get her unfrozen, and we'll kind of continue her conversation until we get her back on there. Talking about failures and learning experiences. What I was going to share with Jeanette was that for me personally, I do a lot in the community, and every time I have an event, or what do you want me to do, caller? Okay. So, I mean, every time I have an event, or if I'm coaching a game or what have you, I look at it afterwards, and I look at what went well and what didn't go well. And I think for me, one of the things that I wasn't doing was then carrying that over into my own personal life. Like, I was great at making like analyzing events and games and things like that, but then looking at my own life in different situations, I I didn't do that, analyzing it. And if you just give me as Jeanette said, a hot second here, I'm going to give her a call, and we're going to get her on speaker until we get her back. 44239. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to say her number out loud. Oh, silly Hope. Did she come back? Oh, okay.
What happened there?
Oh, sorry, we lost you. I was actually getting ready to call you on Kendall's phone and bring you in over telephone, but I don't know what happened there. So while we lost you, I was sharing about what you talked about with analyzing, failures, and that I always have done that with events that I run, with my games that I coach. I'll always look back at a game and say what worked well, what didn't work well, what do I have to work on, and things like that. And events, fundraisers, the same thing. What went well, what can we improve for next year, what were people, kind of asking for. But then I never made that connection and then use that same type of analysis in my own personal life just until recently, like maybe like the last year or so. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of times we're already doing things, just not in the capacity that maybe we could be doing it to make ourselves better.
Right. And I think until we actually apply that whole process to our personal life, I don't think that we actually reach our full potential. And I know a lot of us, I don't feel like now I finally feel like I've reached not my full potential, but I feel like I'm in a good place.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to this last part of, I'm 59 years old. So if I live till I'm 90, I've got 30 years left, right?
Right.
I'm hoping to perform bedside till I'm 70.
There you go.
That's what I'm trying. That's my goal right now, is just to because I like I love bedside, and I didn't realize how much I liked bedside nursing until I got back into it. So that is my goal. So there's things that I have to do to be able to maintain my physical health, to be able to do that. So those are my goals.
Right.
So if we talk about our personal health, and for those of us who have had weight loss surgery, or even those of us with mental health, your guest last week, loved her. I loved her outlook to the future.
Yeah, she's great.
And
that's why I really wanted her to be the guest, because I think she's doing really well.
Yeah. And she's overcoming a lot, and when I think about what I've learned in mental health nursing, she's going to hit bumps in the road.
Mm-hmm.
I will never lie to my mental health patients when they come and sit with me, and as a tech, as a tech, I'm still technically have to work as a tech until I pass the NCLEX.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time talking with my patients that I sit on suicide watch with, about the bumps in the road that you're going to see, but you can overcome it, and it's a matter of your endurance and putting in the hard work. And that's what we do with our SMART goals, right?
Right.
So once you've established that SMART goal, you move on to the planning process. How am I going to get there? So now we're in that implementation stage. We're doing it. We're working this, right? So let's take, for example, our weight loss surgery, right? So we are moving along. I'll use me. My goal was to be in what we call Wonderland by graduation.
Okay.
So that's where you get under 200 pounds
right.
into the 100.
Right.
For those people who don't know, did I make it? No. Did I evaluate my process? Sure did. You know what? I didn't make it because I was too busy studying for Med-Surg 3. That was awful.
Right.
Because it was hard. This last semester, it was hard. Did I make it? No. Did I learn from it? Yes. What did I learn? I learned I can't not be in the gym. I can't be putting things in. Did I maintain? I absolutely maintained. But, and I only needed, like when I set that goal, I only needed 13 pounds to get there. Could have easily been done.
Right. But going to school and you were working, I mean, that is very stressful.
Yes, it is. And again, so there was something that I came up with, and there's something else I brought that I think there's a little human entering my room. I hear kind of the door. So there's another thing that I came across as I was just kind of reading tonight. When we work on these SMART goals, we have to take into consideration our balance, work life, school life balance.
Right.
I did not have balance because, like you said, I was working, I was going to school, I was doing a preceptorship, I was doing clinicals.
Mm-hmm.
And not only was I working 2 jobs.
Right.
So,
and that's where you have to evaluate, what the possible challenges are going to be.
Yes. And you have to evaluate those challenges.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, and just see, what's going to happen there. So, and then as you evaluate and you find out that, hey, I didn't quite get to where I wanted to be, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to not quite be where I wanted to be. So look at in your evaluation process, where did I get? Look how far I've come. So
and what that's celebrating the milestones.
Exactly. So what I didn't get to Wonderland, guess what? I'm excited that I just maintained and I didn't gain 20 pounds back.
Right.
That's a celebration all in of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think with some people, and that's why doing these SMART goals. And again, if you didn't catch last week, go ahead and watch last week's episode. Everything is up here on our YouTube channel. You can watch all of them. If you just click the live button, it'll show you the list of videos. You can do it by like date, like the most recent, and you can find that show from last week. But
I think we kind of need to go back an episode or two where we talked about personalities and behaviors.
Well,
Two,
and we're going to be talking to someone with, that helps change behaviors on our January 12th podcast, because again, this is something that's really important. I mean, it's called Mental Health Mondays, and all of this is so relevant because depending on where you are with your personality, with your mental health, I was going to say that when you got to that point where you did not meet your goal of Wonderland by graduation, that is where some people then actually do fail because they get frustrated. They don't have the tools, or they don't have the love for themselves, the willpower, or the ability to look at themselves in a positive way to continue on and then just reset. Which reset is really important when we're talking about setting goals, because like you said, you didn't meet your goal, but you also didn't gain 20 pounds. Before as I was getting my master's degree, I gained almost 30 pounds. So, because that was very, very stressful. I was in school, working, family, blah, 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 whatever. At that point, I needed a reset. And that's where turning your failure into success really works, is when you're able to reset. As they say in the show Friends, pivot.
yeah, you pivot. And yeah. And that pivot is going back and starting again at the top of the process, right? Assess where you're at. Assess what worked. Okay. All right. So I got this far. What worked to get me to this far? Did my life change to, just because, so many people look at it, like you said, look at it and like, well, I failed. I'll just give up now.
Right.
No, you can't give up. You cannot, you can never, ever give up.
Right.
Ever. You just reevaluate.
And also one of the things that Right. And reset. And I think one of the things too that we talked about last week a little bit was it's okay to change your goals. Not because it was too hard and you failed because it was too hard, realistically too hard. If the opposition is too difficult, then that's a different story. But it's okay to reassess your goals and change them. I have hosted a lot of bachelor's degree social work students and master's degree social work students as their field supervisor when they're doing, their internship. And I remember one gal that we had finished the entire internship, and I, sat the whole group down, and I'm like, I am having them evaluate the situation, evaluate me, evaluate themselves. And the one student says, the thing that I learned out of this is that I don't want to be a social worker. And it was an expensive pill to swallow, but thankfully she knew then.
Yeah. And and I ran into the similar situation. I went into nursing school dead set on being an ER nurse. What I learned through my preceptorship is I could survive in med surg. My heart is in emergency medicine. Right. Because I'm an adrenaline junkie.
Right.
And, luckily I have been able to secure that position with, my 5-year plan was to come to North Carolina. That was the purpose of going back to nursing school, because it supported my 5-year plan. So,
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I'm so glad you said that, because, when we look at business and when we look at nonprofits, we talk about strategic planning. And I feel that we don't strategically plan our lives the same way that we do for a business, the same way that we do for a nonprofit. What's your 1-year goal? What do you want to look like in 1 year? What do you want it to look like in 5 years? And I feel that we don't do that. And we just are always flying by the seat of our pants.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm running into now at home, because we're actually at the 6-year point, and, as we evaluated our life in Pennsylvania, our 5-year plan was to be able to move down here with the kids. My goals have stayed focused on that strategic plan, and my husband's not so much.
Right.
So it is becoming a real struggle for us. So now we are at a point where he's still looking for a job, and we knew this could be a possibility.
Mhm.
So now we're assessing and planning to, for this movement. I will be down, obviously I'll be down here first, and we'll see what happens and where it goes.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
certainly, and if you don't want to discuss this, I mean, you certainly can't speak for your husband. And if you don't want to discuss it, that's fine. But my question in this situation would be, was he, or even if we want to use this in general, was he sticking like to a plan as well as you were? Were
Yep.
you coming back together as a team and reassessing and saying, okay, I'm here, where are you? And making sure that you
And that's
remained on the same page.
And those are excellent questions, because when you are in that situation, in that relationship,
Right.
As an individual, hopefully as individuals, you each grow.
Right.
And as you grow as your individuals, you also are able to do exactly how you just described that, where you're both got your eyes on the prize. So that's where some reevaluation has to be done for us, because I've grown, but he's comfortable,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
and that's totally okay.
Right, right. Because,
Now we just have to
he enjoys
mitigate.
his job, I'm sure, and things like
Love
that.
that.
And sure, absolutely. It does make
And
sense.
now we just have to mitigate that's going to be new. And here it plays right into this theme of, reevaluate those goals and see where we go. And the goals may change,
Right. Right.
So, that's, we may be living apart for some time. That's not to say we don't love each other. That's not to say that our marriage is anything other than solid, right? It's just saying,
Right. Sure.
we're just going to have a lot to mitigate.
And I know several couples who have done that, who have one stays back and either finishes out a contract, finishes out, getting the house ready to sell, because the other has already obtained employment in the new location. So I mean, it's just making sure that you have great communication with your partner.
It's workable. I don't like the word failure, as failure comes across as negativity. As human beings, we tend to look at things in the negative instead of the positive.
Agreed.
And so that's where we go back to things that you and I have talked about in the past, is resetting the mind.
Yes. We
have to be able to reset the mind and make it, respin it.
Right.
Right. So that's, that's kind of, now we just, and that's part of the pivotal or the reset process.
Sure. And I feel that you and I are both very confident women. And, we've both come from, some traumas in our lives and what have you. And it has taken us both a long time to move forward from that. So, so we're doing pretty well. And, but also I feel that as people who have experienced all of that, I feel that we navigate failures differently, because we're used to picking ourselves up by the bootstraps.
Right. And I will tell you, I navigate those failures differently now than I did when I was in my mental health crises.
Oh, absolutely.
So bringing that back to the mental health, our jobs now as those strong, confident women are to reach out through programs like this
Absolutely.
and help others to gain what we've gained.
Absolutely.
So, so that's where, if anyone who is listening to this has any questions about that, the Hope's got the number
Yep.
running across her screen.
Yes.
There's help there. We've talked about this before.
Right. Absolutely. Our mental health crisis line for the entire country is 988, and they will certainly connect you with a professional that can help you out. And as well as, you can comment in the links here, not leaving personal information, but, we can certainly reach out to anyone who would like to talk with us. I know that if you can see my logo at the top, Mental Health Mondays with Hope, that is my Facebook page. You can always join that. And, we can always continue this conversation. My email, it's pretty simple, mentalhealthmondayswithhope@gmail.com. But I think, I was just prefacing this statement with what I had said, earlier about you and I, is that I feel that so many people lack security in themselves, or feel that they will be judged if they do not achieve their goals. I personally, I feel that, some goals you have, you keep to yourself and you work on them and you work your plan. You might go over the plan with a friend, but you don't want to share that goal. But I feel that some goals, are best if you put them out into the universe, and because then there's some accountability, depending again on what the goal is. But I feel that, if we're discussing mental health, that sometimes people lack the ability to, the self-esteem, that when they fail, that's very difficult for them. And, which is why one of the reasons for this topic is talking about how to turn our failures into success, because like you said, failing isn't necessarily a negative.
It's not. And, you reminded me of something my own therapist had me do as an exercise for that. We are always, I'm looking for the words here. When we get up in the morning, we're always bombarded by the outside world, as you said. We're judged. Because I left Iowa, South Dakota, Iowa, and I was judged very heavily, by my grandmother, who I adored. And it hurt to feel that judgment.
Right.
One of the things that I just said to my granddaughter last night is, you don't have to justify. You don't have to justify your reasonings for the situation at hand.
Right.
Okay? But what you do need to do is feel good about yourself and where you're at. So the exercise that my therapist had me do, just take yourself a Post-it note, write on it, I am worth it.
Yes.
Stick it up where you see it first thing in the morning.
Absolutely.
I love you. Stick it on a Post-it note on your refrigerator. So every time you open that fridge, I love you, Johnette.
Right.
I love you, Hope. Whatever it takes.
Right. Absolutely. And I think I shared that on my very first podcast, is that I have it written. Well, I did. I need to put it back up there because it was up there for so long, on my bathroom mirror in lipstick. It says, I am. And, I have to complete that with a positive affirmation every morning. And I agree with you 100%. And I think we don't do that. And I know that Kendall, when he does the empowerment show, he starts that show with what am I grateful for? And, I think we just don't stop and think about that. I don't know how many shows I've done now. And, I have some people have a difficult time giving a positive affirmation about themselves, because like you said, we're always so negative. We take the negative out of everything. And my sister, who has been my guest, she had a great one. And she said, like, every morning when you get up and every night before you go to bed, you need to say, I love myself and I deserve to be loved.
Yes.
And I mean, it just, the more you say it, the more you begin to believe it, because not everybody does. And the more it becomes natural for you. So yeah, I
think the gratitude has to be added, that to Kendall's point. You know, I am thankful for every failure that I have had.
Right.
Okay.
So that I can learn from it and
so
grow.
that I can learn from it and move on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was kind of saving this for the end, as you know, because we talked about it.
Do you want to still save it for the end? Because there was there was a comment that Kendall put up. Kendall, I don't know if you're able to put that up again, from somebody who's watching right now. They posted a comment. So I thought maybe if we can pull that up again, we can.
I saw that, but I couldn't. I apologize. I couldn't read and talk at the same time.
I know. I was looking down. I don't know if you noticed that. Okay.
I did.
So this is from Anna Lopez. Hi, Anna. And it says, very true. I have, wait. Oh, this is a second comment. This isn't the first one. Okay. So the first one was talking about planning. There we go. Planning is my security. I'm glad you said that. My husband is nowhere a planner. There was a point that I overplanned and I needed to find a balance to planning because of him too. And I see that point. I totally understand that. And Jeanette, I think, that goes with what we were talking about with the plan.
100%. And I think so, and I've shared before that both my husband and I came from abusive situations. And again, some of us grow and some of us stay stuck. And it's how we receive that. It's how we receive that being stuck, I guess. It's also about communication, where you are planning or over planning, as you put it in your message there, Anna. What is your communication like with your husband about that plan? And how receptive is he to that communication?
Right.
Communication in my relationship can sometimes be, for both of us, be very difficult.
Right.
I've learned a lot about communication through nursing school. So I have tried to use that communication. But again, we all have these defense mechanisms in place that we've learned, and every one of us learned different defense mechanisms throughout our childhood and as we bring up. So until we relearn those defense mechanisms, sometimes it's very, very difficult.
Right. And I feel like with what Anna said was that planning is her security. So
mine too. I totally get that. Mine too.
Yeah. So that to me is a little different than just like being just like taking control. Like in order to feel comfortable or confident, it sounds like Anna has to plan, and that's difficult to kind of step back a little bit, like she said, and find that balance. I feel that sometimes I have seen, even with myself, I can be like that, especially in, in a situation, in a leadership situation where you take the lead and you just kind of take control. And sometimes people will back down instead of stepping up, because you're doing what you do. I would rather have everyone at my level of energy than have them back away from my level of energy. And that happens in relationships, that happens in business, that happens in, in nonprofits. And I would rather have everyone come up to my level of energy, or at least attempt
Yeah,
to,
that's where
than
I'm
to back away and say, oh, look at that energy, that girl, she's got it. She's got it. And that can happen in relationships as well. It kind of makes it easier. I totally was one. I am a fanatic about doing my yard. And my ex, then used that as an excuse to not do the yard because I wouldn't like the way it was done. Whereas he could have used that as a stepping up moment to say, okay, let's talk about how you like the yard done, and we'll work that together. And so I think finding that balance, like you said, Anna, but encouraging people to come up to where you are, which also means you might have to come down a little.
Yeah. And that you brought back a thought. So when I was dealing with, I don't always get along with my mom. And a very wise person told me, sometimes you have to meet them where they are.
Yes.
And since
that's the social worker in me right there. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Right. Well, and this person, she was my previous manager, is her degree is in social work. So yes, sometimes you have to meet them where they are. And it is very hard to find that, that balance, right? But what I found through meeting people where they are is it's easier to find that balance.
Right.
So.
Right. And I'm seeing all these great comments by Anna that says that she's visual. Anna, I'm encouraging you to look for the follow through guide on Facebook. That is my group page, my page for goals for 2026. Part of the follow through guide, the plan itself, is journaling. And that I got from my dear friend, that idea. I don't know who that came from, Miss Jeanette, because as you know, Jeanette, as we're talking about these things, she's saying, as I assess this, as I, evaluate this, it's great if you're doing it up here, but putting that on paper so it's something that you can go back to. So journaling is really important. Journal.
Yes.
And then one of the things that we also do with the follow through guide is vision boards. So, and a vision board can be so many different things.
Yeah. And, Anna, you just, I see your comment there, Anna, about communication varies. Not really sure what you mean by that, because it varies in my household too. My husband and I go in two different directions 98% of the time. He is a team lead in his job. I obviously work in healthcare. So, our time together can vary. So I'm not sure what you mean by the communication varies, but I understand that. So I really like Hope's idea of a vision board, something I'm going to take home with me when I get home, so that we can work on that vision board together.
Right.
And that may be an idea for you, Anna.
Oh, that is,
and say, because you're the planner and maybe he's not so much, it seems like, from what I'm gathering from your comments. So, maybe this will bring him up a little bit, bring you down a little bit, put you on each other on the same playing field.
Right. And as you know, we're going to wrap up here. Part of my 2026 goal with Mental Health Mondays is to have at least one podcast per month that helps us. I mean, we're every Monday, but one podcast per month that sticks with this topic of achieving our goals. And so, like I said, on the 12th, we're going to have Carrie Benson, who is going to be talking about looking at our behaviors and how we can tweak our behaviors in order to reach our goals. But I would like to wish everyone a happy new year and thank you for watching us throughout this year, and hope you join us in 2026. And I'm going to let Jeanette, I know you have something to close with, and I'm going to go ahead and let you close there, Jeanette, for us.
So the one term I think you were talking about, Hope, when you were talking about some people just don't know how to get there. The term is resilience. So just to close with, future accomplishments include long-term understanding that you are resilient, you can do the hard things, and it takes endurance to do those hard things and to get you to success.
That's
and
beautiful.
that, with what I have shared, everything I've shared with you tonight, and with my own mental health, my own abusive situation, resilience is
Absolutely.
what got me through it. And we've
Absolutely.
all got it there. We just have to find it. And we can
Absolutely.
find it, and we can do it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, my beautiful friend. You always have great insight. I love you very much. I'm very proud
you,
of you
Hope.
for all of your accomplishments. And we'll see you in 2026.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.